ARK Genesis Ascended has now been available for just over 2 weeks, but Studio Wildcard is already preparing for what could be one of the biggest additions to the entire Tides of Fortune expansion. We finally have a release window for the new Galleon, confirmation of a completely new system that will allow significantly bigger ship builds, an important workaround for players currently unable to repair their ships, and even more official Genesis Part 1 servers coming online. There's quite a lot to discuss today, especially if you've been enjoying the new ship aside of Genesis Ascended. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into everything we've learned, and if you enjoyed today's video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. So starting with the biggest news, Studio Wildcard has confirmed that the Tides of Fortune Galleon will release alongside the final Astraeos update. That update is currently expected to arrive in August, meaning we may now only be a matter of weeks away from finally getting access to this absolutely enormous ship. We've known about the Galleon for a while, but now we have a much better idea about how ambitious this is going to be. Studio Wildcard describes the Galleon as a massive super fortress of a ship, and apparently it will support more than 300 player-built structures. That is a huge number of structures to place on a single moving vessel. The Galleon won't just be something you use to travel around the ocean, players will effectively be able to transform it into a proper floating base. You could potentially have storage areas, crafting stations, defensive structures, and living quarters all built directly on board the same ship. I'm really interested to see what the ARK building community manages to actually create with it, and whenever ARK gives its players a new building system, it usually doesn't take long before somebody constructs something that looks completely impossible. Some players will probably build enormous pirate fortresses, others will actually create mobile creature storage facilities, trading ships, or heavily defended PvP vessels. And then someone will, probably cover the entire thing in walls and turn it into a floating metal box. That's just how ARK players operate. However, the most important part of this announcement might not be the Galleon itself. Alongside the ship, Studio Wildcard is introducing new technical systems that will increase the number of player-built structures that can be placed on ships. Depending on the ship's class, structure limits could be increased for up to 4 times. This won't necessarily mean that every ship vessel receives exactly 4 times its current building limit. Wildcard specifically says that the increase will actually depend on the class of the ship. However, this should still allow players to produce much larger and more elaborate builds across the overall ship system, and this could make quite a massive difference. One of the biggest challenges with platform saddles, rafts, and other mobile bases has always been finding the right balance between creativity and performance. You want players to have enough freedom to create something generally impressive, but every additional structure also has to move around with the world on that platform. The fact that Wildcard is developing new technical systems specifically to actually raise the limits suggests that this involves more than just simply changing a number in the settings. And hopefully this technology allows bigger builds without creating significant performance issues whenever one of these ships enters an area. Of course, we'll have to wait until the system is actually released before we know how well it performs in practice. But if it works as intended, it could be an important improvement for every player currently enjoying the shipbuilding features introduced through Tides of Fortune. The Galleon is releasing with the final Astraeos update is also a very interesting decision, considering Astraeos is approaching the final stage of its development, and this update should complete the overall map experience. Combining that final update with the Galleon gives players a major reason to return to Astraeos while continuing to expand the Tides of Fortune content introduced alongside Genesis Ascended. It effectively connects both releases. Genesis Part 1 has given players the new Tides of Fortune systems, while Astraeos should provide another enormous world where players can put those ships to use, especially as we know there could potentially be a new underwater world in the final update of of Astraeos. But August is shaping up to be another important month for ARK Survival Ascended, and let me know in the comments what you actually think you're going to build aboard the Galleon. Would you use it as your ship's primary base, build an enormous pirate fortress, or keep the design relatively simple so you can move around without having 400 different objects blocking your screen? But before we continue with Genesis official fixes and official server expansion, if you're currently looking for somewhere new to experience Genesis Ascended, you're more than welcome to join us over in the LoadedCrysis cluster. Our Genesis Part 1 server is now fully available, alongside every other map currently released for ARK Survivor Ascended. That includes all official ASA maps and the Survival High mod map, with transfers allowing you to continue your wider ARK journey across the cluster. We're committed to adding every major new map from day one, so when ARK continues expanding, the LoadedCrysis cluster will continue expanding alongside it. We have an active community, an experienced staff team, boosted rates, regular events, and plenty more planned for the future. We're also preparing some brand new PvP event servers, including an upcoming competition where the winner will receive $200 in LoadedCrysis store credit, and it is going to be ship battles. The cluster is completely free to play, and you can join our Discord through the link in the description and find all of the server information to begin your Genesis adventure today. Now, moving back to Genesis, we also have an important update for anyone experiencing problems while trying to repair their ship. So this information is described as being fresh from QA, so Studio Wildcard isn't yet certain whether the problem is affecting every platform. At the moment, attempting to repair a ship through the Shipyard's multi-use wheel does not appear to be working correctly. However, that doesn't mean that your ship is stuck in a damaged condition. Players should still be able to complete the repair through the ship's own multi-use wheel, so if you've been repeatedly attempting to repair your vessel through the shipyard and nothing is happening, interact directly with the ship and use its multi-use wheel instead. This should act as a temporary workaround while Studio Wildcard investigates the underlying problem. It's a relatively small detail compared to the actual arrival of the Galleon, but it's important information for anyone actively using ships in Genesis. The last thing you want is to assume your damaged ship can no longer be repaired, especially if you've already placed resources, structures, or valuable items aboard it. Studio Wildcard hasn't confirmed exactly which platforms are affected or when a permanent fix will arrive. For now, use the ship's multi-use wheel, and hopefully a proper correction will be included with one of the next patches. Genesis Ascended has experienced a few issues since it launched, which probably won't surprise anybody who has followed ARK for more than 5 minutes. However, Wildcard is continuing to investigate problems and release updates as they are identified. Hopefully the game can now settle into a more stable position as the team prepares the next major wave of content in August. Despite those issues, it sounds like a substantial number of players have been jumping into Genesis Part 1 since it released, and demand has apparently been high enough for the studio to prepare an additional batch of official Genesis servers. These new servers are currently expected to come online Monday, July 20th during the Pacific time. And for players here in the UK and across Europe, that may mean the servers don't become available until very late on Monday or potentially during the early hours of Tuesday, depending on the exact launch time. The new batch will include a mixture of PvP, PvE small tribes and console small tribe servers. That should hopefully provide more room for players who have struggled to enter a busy server or who simply want the opportunity to start again on a newer world. Fresh official servers are always interesting because everyone begins from a relatively equal position. There aren't already enormous tribes occupying the best areas and established trading networks controlling the economy or advanced bases covering important locations. For PvP players in particular, a fresh server creates an opportunity to compete from the beginning instead of joining a world where everybody has weeks and weeks of progress. Wildcard says it will continue monitoring activity and capacity after the rollout, so it's possible that further servers could be considered if Genesis continues attracting enough players. As soon as Studio Wildcard reveals the Gallion's abilities, the final release date, or anything about the last Astraeos update, I'll cover it all here on the channel. If you enjoyed today's video, consider leaving a like and subscribing so you don't miss any of the latest ARK Survival Ascended news. And remember, if you want to play Genesis Ascended alongside an active community, the LoadedCrysis cluster is completely free to join. You'll find the Discord invite and all the information you need in the description down below. But for now, let me know your thoughts on the Galleon. Is a ship supporting more than 300 structures exactly what Genesis needs, and what will be your first build on the new Galleon? Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.